Good morning, everybody. I want to talk to you today about something we all need to be reminded of from time to time. The title might sound a little tough at first. Nobody cares, focus on your life. But let me tell you, there's power in that truth. There's freedom in that reality. We live in a world that's constantly looking for approval. From the moment we wake up, we're checking likes, reading comments, watching who's paying attention, and adjusting ourselves just to fit into an image that others will accept. But the truth is, this endless pursuit of validation is exhausting and, more importantly, unnecessary. When you rely on people's applause to feel confident, you give them power they were never meant to have in your life. You put your sense of worth into hands that are often too distracted, too broken, or too busy to handle it properly. You weren't created to be everyone's favorite. You weren't called to fit in. You were uniquely designed by God for a purpose that is not up for public vote. When you start living your life to please people, you'll constantly be pulled in different directions. One moment they like you, the next they don't. One day you're popular, the next day they forget your name. That's why Scripture reminds us not to live for the approval of man, but to live to please God. Because His approval never changes. His opinion of you is steady, not based on trends or moods or shifting standards. There are people who won't understand your vision. They won't see your heart. They may criticize your decisions, question your motives, and overlook your value, but you can't let their opinion become your identity. Too many dreams die not because the dreamer wasn't capable, but because they were discouraged by people who couldn't see what God had placed inside them. You have to get to a place where your confidence is not rooted in applause, but in purpose, where your self-worth isn't determined by external affirmation, but by internal conviction that you are chosen, anointed, and equipped for your assignment. Jesus Himself didn't seek the approval of the crowd. At one point, thousands followed Him. But when the message got tough, when He told the truth, they walked away. He didn't chase after them. He didn't change the message to keep them happy. He stayed faithful to the mission. That's the model we're called to follow. Stay true to what God put in you, even if it means standing alone, even if no one claps, even if no one sees the value yet, because the right people will come at the right time, and more importantly, God's favor will open doors no human endorsement ever could. You don't need 1,000 people cheering for you when you have the one who created the universe saying, "I'm with you." You don't need a platform to be powerful. You don't need validation to be valuable. Your purpose was designed before you were ever noticed, and your destiny is not fragile. It's not dependent on popularity. God's plans don't fall apart because someone unfollows you, unfriends you, or unfavors you. What He's spoken over your life is still standing, even when human voices go silent. When you stop seeking validation from others, something powerful happens. You get your energy back. You stop performing. You stop apologizing for being who God made you to be. You move in freedom. You take risks not to impress people, but because you trust God's leading. You stop being a prisoner to opinion and become a steward of vision. That's when things start to shift. You may not be the loudest voice in the room, but your presence will carry peace. Your steps will carry purpose. Your life will speak without shouting. Don't let your destiny be delayed because you're waiting on people to approve what God has already blessed. Move forward. Walk boldly. Speak truth. Build what He told you to build, even if it feels quiet, even if no one notices yet. The applause of heaven is louder than the silence of man. And when you walk in that kind of freedom, you'll start to realize that what you were really chasing all along wasn't people's attention. It was peace. And peace doesn't come from people. It comes from knowing you're walking in God's will. So walk on. One of the most liberating truths you can embrace in life is that most people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. We often walk around carrying a weight that was never meant for us, constantly worrying about what others are thinking, saying, or assuming. We replay conversations, overanalyze reactions, and change our behavior out of fear that someone might misunderstand us or criticize our decisions. But the reality is, most people are too busy thinking about their own lives to spend much time thinking about yours. They have their own responsibilities, their own struggles, their own dreams and disappointments. And while they might notice you for a moment, they usually move on to the next thing without giving it much thought. When you begin to understand this, you can stop living your life under a microscope. You can stop trying to manage everyone's perception of you and start focusing on what really matters: your growth, your peace, and your purpose. Too many people live as prisoners to opinions that were never
never even fully formed. They hold themselves back from opportunities because they're afraid of how it might look. They stay silent when they're meant to speak, shrink when they're meant to shine, and settle when they were meant to rise. And all for what? A fear of judgment that most people are too distracted to carry out. This doesn't mean that people don't care about you at all, or that you should live with a hardened heart. It means that you stop giving unnecessary power to temporary thoughts. Someone might see you make a mistake, but they're probably thinking about their own. Someone might hear you say something awkward, but chances are they're remembering something they said last week that was worse. Human nature is inwardly focused. We all have our own mental battles, financial concerns, family issues, and personal insecurities. Most of the time, people are thinking about how they looked in the room, not how you did. When you grasp this truth, it frees you from the constant cycle of comparison and self-consciousness. You no longer feel the need to edit yourself for public comfort. You stop measuring your worth by how many people are watching. You stop trying to script your life like a performance and instead start living it with intention. The energy you once used to impress people is now available to invest in yourself. You stop asking, what will they think? And you start asking, what is God calling me to do?
There will always be critics. There will always be spectators, but very few people are actually invested in your journey the way you are. That's why it's so important to learn to encourage yourself, to wake up in the morning and choose purpose even when no one is clapping for you, to show up with excellence even when there's no spotlight. Because you're not doing it for their attention, you're doing it because you know what's in you. You're doing it because you believe in the vision God has planted in your heart. When you live like this, you become less reactive and more grounded. You stop being tossed around by the highs and lows of public opinion. Whether people notice or not, whether they compliment or ignore, you stay consistent. That kind of stability is rare and it's powerful. It builds trust, it builds momentum, and it ultimately leads to greater impact. You're not trying to go viral, you're trying to be faithful. You're not trying to be seen, you're trying to be effective. And effectiveness doesn't always come with applause. So many people miss their moment because they're waiting for others to notice them before they take action. But God didn't give you the dream so you could wait for permission. He gave it to you so you could move in obedience. When you stop focusing on being noticed and start focusing on being faithful, everything changes. Your confidence grows, your peace deepens, your joy becomes less circumstantial and more rooted in who you are, not what others think. The truth is, the people who matter will see your heart in time. The right people will recognize your value, but even if they don't, you're still called, you're still worthy, you're still capable of doing great things. So let go of the need to be constantly validated. Release the pressure to be understood by everyone. Most people are dealing with their own storms, and that's okay. It's not your job to manage their thoughts. It's your job to live your life with clarity, purpose, and grace. The rest will take care of itself. There's something powerful about understanding that your calling doesn't require consensus. In a world that thrives on opinions, likes, and groupthink, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that in order for your dream to be valid, others have to approve of it. But God doesn't work by committee. He didn't call a crowd to shape your destiny. He called you. The vision He placed in your heart wasn't a group project. It was a divine assignment meant specifically for your life. And if you spend your time waiting for everyone to understand it, support it, or celebrate it, you'll miss the very moments you were created to walk in. Throughout Scripture, we see countless examples of individuals who were called by God and yet stood alone. David was anointed to be king while he was still a shepherd boy out in the fields. When the prophet Samuel came to Jesse's house to anoint the next king, David's own father didn't even think to bring him into the room. He lined up all the older, stronger, more impressive sons and left David out in the back, forgotten. But what man overlooks, God handpicks. David didn't need his father's approval to be chosen. He didn't need his brothers to believe in him. He didn't need anyone else to see it. God saw it, and that was enough. The same is true for you. People might not recognize the potential inside of you. They might question your decisions or make you feel like you're dreaming too big, but your calling doesn't need to be explained to everyone. It needs to be followed in obedience. Too often we delay what God is asking us to do because we're afraid of looking foolish. We want to gather a support team, a fan club, a list of endorsements before we take the first step. But God doesn't operate like that.
In fact, the biggest breakthroughs usually begin in private, in quiet obedience when no one else sees what's happening behind the scenes. You have to be okay with walking alone for a season. There may be times when even the people closest to you don't understand your direction. It's not because they don't care, but because the vision wasn't given to them. And that's not something to resent, it's something to accept. When God puts a calling on your life, He gives you the insight, the burden, the passion. Expecting others to carry what only you were meant to steward can create unnecessary frustration. Instead of waiting for others to catch the vision, keep moving forward and let your fruit speak for itself in due time. One of the reasons many people never step into their destiny is because they spend too much time trying to convince everyone around them that they're worthy of it. They exhaust themselves trying to get people to believe in their dream, when the truth is not everyone is meant to go with you to the next level. Some people were only assigned to your past, not your future. They were a part of your journey for a season, not for the destination, and that's okay. Letting go of the need for constant affirmation frees you to follow God without hesitation.
If Noah had waited for everyone to agree that building an ark made sense, he would have drowned with the rest of the world. If Moses had waited for everyone to support him before confronting Pharaoh, the Israelites would have remained in bondage. If Esther had waited for unanimous approval before stepping into the king's court, her people might not have been saved. The pattern is clear. Great callings often come with great resistance. And if you let fear of rejection or misunderstanding control you, you'll miss the moments that were designed to change your life. It's okay if people don't see what you see. It's okay if they don't get excited when you talk about your goals. It's okay if they don't cheer you on the way you expected. Their silence or skepticism does not cancel God's promise. Your faithfulness is not dependent on their applause. What matters most is that you stay aligned with what God is asking you to do, that you move with courage even when you feel alone, that you keep sowing, building, serving, and trusting that the God who called you will also equip you, guide you, and establish you. Sometimes walking in purpose means walking in isolation for a time, but that solitude can be sacred. It's in those quiet seasons that God strengthens your character, clarifies your vision, and deepens your dependence on Him. So don't be discouraged if your journey doesn't come with a crowd. If God called you, that's all the confirmation you need. You were never meant to get consensus. You were meant to be obedient. And obedience will always take you further than approval ever could. There comes a point in life where you have to decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. One of the most important lessons you can learn is that your focus is a precious resource, and not everything or everyone deserves access to it. When you allow yourself to become consumed by what others think of you, you begin to lose sight of what truly matters. Your growth, your peace, and your purpose start to take a back seat to the opinions and expectations of people who are not responsible for your destiny. It's a dangerous exchange because the more attention you give to their voices, the quieter God's voice becomes in your life. Every time you focus on someone else's opinion, you invite doubt into your journey. You begin to question what you once felt confident about. You wonder if you should change your direction, lower your standards, or shrink to make others comfortable. But the truth is, you weren't created to live in fear of judgment. You weren't designed to carry the weight of other people's misunderstanding. Growth demands that you become selective about what you allow into your heart and mind. You can't nurture your purpose while entertaining every bit of criticism or comparison that comes your way. At some point, you have to make peace with being misunderstood. You have to stop giving your energy to things that don't align with where you're going. Not everyone will see the value in your vision. Not everyone will appreciate your growth. Some people liked you better when you were stuck, silent, and struggling because it made them feel more comfortable. But as you rise, don't be surprised when the support grows quiet. That's not a sign to turn back. It's a sign that you're growing beyond what they can comprehend. And when you're growing, the last thing you should do is stop and explain yourself to people who aren't committed to understanding you anyway. Focusing on your growth means guarding your thoughts. It means being intentional about what you listen to, what you believe, and what you internalize. Just because someone said it doesn't mean it's true. Just because they don't support you doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Sometimes opposition is confirmation that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Don't give power to every negative comment or dismissive glance. You are not built to break every time someone fails to recognize your worth. When you prioritize your growth, you begin to move with clarity. You don't waste time defending every decision or proving yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You understand that silence is sometimes the best response, not because you're weak, but because you're focused. You've got things to build, habits to develop, goals to pursue. That takes energy. That takes discipline. That takes a mindset that says, I'm not here to impress, I'm here to fulfill. And fulfilling your purpose means putting your energy where it counts.
It also means refusing to water weeds. There will always be distractions designed to steal your focus. There will be drama, petty arguments, gossip, and negativity. Those are weeds, things that grow fast but add no value. If you keep feeding them, they'll overtake the garden of your life. But when you refuse to give them attention, when you choose instead to water the seeds of purpose, discipline, and vision, you'll begin to see lasting growth. You'll bear fruit that speaks louder than words ever could. Your life will begin to reflect your focus. There's power in being intentional. When you wake up every day and decide, today I'm putting my energy into what builds me, not what breaks me, you create momentum. You stop trying to manage impressions and start managing impact. You stop being reactive and start being proactive. And in doing so, you protect your peace, because peace doesn't come from being liked by everyone. Peace comes from knowing you're walking in alignment with your purpose, even if nobody claps, even if nobody notices, even if it feels lonely at times. So choose today to take your focus back. Let people say what they want. Let them misunderstand, mislabel, and misjudge. That's their issue, not yours. Your responsibility is to grow, to develop, to move forward with grace and intention. You don't owe anyone an explanation for becoming who God created you to be. Stay focused, stay faithful, and keep watering what matters. Your attention is a form of investment. What you focus on, what you speak about, what you feed with your time and energy, those things will grow. That's why it's so important to be careful where you place your energy. You can't afford to water weeds and expect to grow a fruitful life. Weeds represent the distractions, the negativity, the toxic relationships, the doubts, and the fears that slowly choke out your joy and drain your strength. They don't need your help to grow. They thrive on neglect and chaos. But if you keep giving them attention, they'll overrun your life and suffocate what actually matters. Many people spend so much time watering weeds without even realizing it. They replay negative comments in their mind. They give room to gossip. They entertain every insecurity. They feed resentment instead of releasing it. They focus on what's missing instead of what's working. And over time, all of that focus turns into frustration, discouragement, and stagnation. You can't produce peace when you're nurturing pain. You can't grow into purpose when you're constantly entertaining drama. At some point, you have to step back and ask, what am I watering in my life? You were never meant to live overwhelmed by things that don't serve you. Every time you invest energy into conflict, into overthinking, into comparison, that's energy that could have gone into building something meaningful. Seeds represent your purpose, your gifts, your future, your faith, your calling. Seeds are often small, quiet, and easy to overlook. They require patience and consistency. Unlike weeds, they don't show results right away. You might not see anything changing above the surface for a while, but that doesn't mean something isn't happening underground. Every moment you spend working on yourself, staying disciplined, praying, creating, showing up, those are seeds. And those seeds, when watered daily, will eventually produce fruit. The challenge is that weeds are louder than seeds. The negative voices are often more noticeable than the quiet reminders of purpose. The disappointments shout while the progress whispers. That's why it takes intentional focus to tune out the noise and stay committed to what matters. You have to learn to starve the weeds by refusing to entertain them. Stop giving time to arguments that don't lead anywhere. Stop dwelling on what didn't work. Stop trying to please people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That's wasted water. That's water meant for your vision, your growth, your peace. It also means being selective with the people you allow into your inner circle. Some people will plant weeds in your life without even realizing it. They'll bring negativity, doubt, fear, or discouragement with every conversation. They'll constantly remind you of your past or downplay your progress. If you let those voices in, if you let them take root, they'll hinder your harvest. It doesn't mean you hate them. It means you love your purpose enough to protect it. You don't have to entertain every opinion. You don't have to defend every move. You just have to be faithful with what you've been given. When you start watering the right things, everything changes. Your mindset shifts. Your peace returns. Your creativity comes alive. Your relationships become healthier. You start to see possibilities again. And even if nothing changes overnight, you know you're building something lasting, because real growth takes time. It's not flashy. It's not always visible, but it's happening. Every moment you choose discipline over distraction, peace over panic, prayer over worry, you're watering the right things. There will still be moments when the weeds try to come back. That's life. But now you have the wisdom to recognize them early. You can catch those thoughts before they take root. You can pause before reacting. You can step away before engaging in something toxic. And each time you do, you're strengthening your garden. You're giving yourself room to flourish. You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to be faithful with the small things. Water the right thoughts. Feed your spirit. Tend to your mental health. Nurture your dream. Let go of what no longer serves you. Stop watering what steals from you. Start investing in what brings life. In time, the seeds will speak for themselves. The fruit will be undeniable. And you'll realize that the quiet daily choices to focus on what matters made all the difference. One of the greatest freedoms you will ever experience is the ability to live your life without needing validation from others. Too often, people get stuck in cycles of frustration, insecurity, or indecision simply because they're waiting for someone to acknowledge them, support them, or give them permission to move forward. But the truth is, if you wait for applause before you act, you'll rarely do anything meaningful. Not everyone will see your potential, not everyone will understand your process, and not everyone is meant to celebrate you, and that's okay. You were never meant to live for the approval of people who don't even understand your assignment. You have to come to a place where you are secure in who you are, even when no one is clapping. Some seasons of your life will be quiet. You'll be working hard, making sacrifices, showing up with consistency, and there won't be any recognition. You'll be doing the right thing, but no one will be watching. Those are not wasted seasons. Those are foundational ones. It's in the silence that character is built. It's in the solitude that your motives are refined. And it's in those unnoticed efforts that your roots grow deep. If you can stay faithful in those times, you'll develop the kind of strength that doesn't need validation to keep going. When you stop seeking constant approval, you also stop living a filtered life. You no longer edit your decisions to keep others comfortable. You stop performing and start living. And there's a peace that comes when your actions are no longer controlled by fear of how others will react. You begin to realize that your calling is not a popularity contest. It's not about how many people understand your path. It's about being obedient to the one who gave you the path in the first place. You weren't made to impress, you were made to impact. And impact often requires you to walk alone, to make decisions that others won't understand, and to keep moving when there's no praise. Living without needing validation doesn't mean you don't value people or community. It simply means your identity is no longer dependent on their reactions. You can appreciate support without needing it to function. You can receive encouragement without relying on it to feel worthy. And that's a powerful place to be, because it gives you emotional independence. You're not thrown off by criticism, nor are you addicted to compliments. You know who you are, you know what you're working toward, and that inner confidence allows you to stay focused no matter what's happening around you. There will be moments when people you thought would support you go silent. There will be times when you exceed expectations and no one notices. And there will be seasons when you pour everything into something and still don't get the outcome you hope for. But even then, you can stand tall knowing that your worth is not tied to your results. It's tied to your faithfulness. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be true to your purpose. And if you remain consistent, the fruit will eventually show. But even if it doesn't come in the way or time you expected, you can still walk in peace because your efforts were never in vain.
Freedom comes when you no longer need applause to feel accomplished. It comes when you do the right thing simply because it's right, not because someone is watching. It comes when your value is rooted in who you are, not in who others say you are. That kind of confidence can't be shaken by rejection. It doesn't crumble under criticism, and it doesn't wait for perfect circumstances to start moving forward. It simply keeps going with or without applause because it's anchored in truth, not approval. You'll find that as you live like this, the right people will show up at the right time. The ones who truly value you won't need to be impressed. They'll recognize your heart, your consistency, your integrity, but even if they don't, you'll be okay. Because your peace doesn't come from being seen, it comes from being faithful. You can move in silence and still be powerful. You can grow without being recognized. You can succeed quietly because real success doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it shows up in your discipline, your peace of mind, your growth, and your freedom to keep moving forward with or without the crowd.